Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be around the world. Welcome to another Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the agency trainer here at Hosting.com and thrilled that you've joined me again in my virtual office for another week of questions. So we have several questions in the list. You can ask those questions, by the way, at any time. You can always just go to wpnathan.com and click the button in the top right to ask an office hours question, and it'll get in the queue. We answer those questions usually roughly in the order they are received. So you can get those questions in at any point during the week, and we'll get to them in the next office hours. So as usual, we will begin today with the weekly brief. If you're just joining us in Zoom and you don't have the download yet, I'm going to drop that link for you in the chat. That'll download this weekly brief. It is a self-contained HTML file that's going to download directly to your desktop with that link. So don't let that freak you out. It's a single HTML file where all of these things are. Let's get started then with, hey, WordCamp US just drew to a close. I wasn't able to make it this year. I was a little bummed out. Had major case of FOMO, and people texted me pictures. And anyway, I just couldn't make it. But it was apparently a great event. They had 1,100 people registered, many more watching the live streams. Contributor Day even had 425 people. So that's pretty significant. So the mayor of Phoenix, Arizona, even declared August 19th as Phoenix WordPress Day. How about that? So anyway, pretty neat stuff. One thing I will give you here on this deck is this link, which is the wrong link. Oh my gosh, what happened? Hang on. Let's fix that. Because somewhere, well, anyway, I don't know. Let's just look for it together, shall we? Because there is a YouTube playlist that is all of the WordCamp US talks, and it's worth showing. You can just go to youtube.com/WordPress, if I can type correctly, and that will bring up the videos from WordCamp US. And there is a playlist someplace. Anyway, they're all there. I'm not going to take any more time here live. Playlists. Yes, here. And somewhere here, there is the playlist for WordCamp 2026. It's in here, I promise. And I thought I had the link correct, but they're all there. Matter of fact, this morning, I pointed my AI tool at all 19 of the YouTube replays from the 19 AI conversations that were had, and had it write some summaries. And so I'm still working my way through those. Lots of great AI talks, folks, including our friend Kathy Zant, who talked about AI and security and some other things. Really, really good. So all those sessions are now up on the YouTube channel for WordPress. And I'd invite you to go take a look at those because they are all, the ones that I saw are quite good. Moving along, in tandem with WordCamp US 2026, WordPress 7.1 shipped. That was yesterday in the final day of WordCamp US. WordPress 7.1 Mary Lou, named for Mary Lou Williams, who's a jazz pianist, arranger, and composer. 800 contributors on this one, 170 for the first time. That's a pretty good statistic. Many things changed in WordPress 7.1. We've been talking about that for weeks now. I'm not going to go back and rehash all of that other than a quick hit of the high points, which is, look, in core blocks, you can now have responsive settings, which is long overdue. The media editor is probably the main thing you're going to see different. It's been the edit feature where you can, in WordPress, edit images. That's been totally revamped for the better. It's quite good. Also, there is client-side image resizing and conversion, which is also really good if you're using Chrome or Edge. Those are the only two browsers that support this right now. But it does the processing happens in your browser instead of the server, and so that's just good. Using your computer's horsepower rather than the server, and so it frees your server to do server things. And a couple of new blocks. If you're a block person, there's a playlist for audio and tabs. Some other things. Those are the high points. 7.1 is out. We've updated it on a couple of test sites just to see. No problems. But I was still My advice, as always, is on these major versions of WordPress, you'll want to wait probably until the .1 comes out. So our typical cadence is to wait until like WordPress 7.1.1 drops before we update. Now, when WordPress 7.0 landed, the .1 didn't release for a long time, and we ended up, after a couple of weeks, there were no issues, so we went ahead and updated the fleet of sites that we manage. And so that's what I recommend. I wouldn't automatically just update major core releases until the dust settles just a bit. All right, WordPress 7.2 planning is open. The target date for release is December the 9th. A call for volunteers is out, and that's all that we know. Other than put that on your calendar because we will have a release in December. Thankfully, not on a holiday weekend as they have done in the past, which is not awesome. Moving along here, in under the banner of hashtag WP drama, there's been a little kerfluffle with Matt Mullenweg and the accessibility team. The accessibility team for WordPress overhauled the accessibility ready theme requirements, the first revision to that list of requirements in 14 years. So themes that carried the tag accessibility ready, we're going to need a re-review by the team in order to maintain that tag or be delisted from the directory. The team set a review deadline of September the 30th. Matt Mullenweg stepped in and said, nope, this is permanently delayed. The team has overstepped its authority to do this, on and on and on, et cetera, et cetera. So, who knows? There's always going to be some WP drama out there at some point. Yeah. I mean, I think we need accessibility ready themes, and if there should be a tag there that lets you know that there is one. And I don't know. Moving right along, this is great news. If you haven't played with this yet, the official WordPress browser extension is live in the Chrome and Mac app stores. I would recommend that you grab this. It was written by Jake Goldman, who was one of the founders of 10up, and a WordPress enterprise agency that recently, in the last year or two, merged with Fueled to form a super agency. But anyway, Jake built this browser extension, and it does many things that are very cool. And it works really well. I've tinkered around with it just a little bit. Like, it's just simple things like quick link to the WordPress admin. You can quick button to edit this page. You can toggle on and off the admin bar, which is sometimes really helpful when you're doing development. Log out of the site here. And even you can drop down into some developer tools to hide and show and hide different things on the page. It's really great. It's free. And there's no reason not to use it. I would go grab it and play around with it because you might find that it is a great friend for your WordPress development process. Okay, WooCommerce. This is actually welcome news, especially if you serve international audiences with your WooCommerce site. WooCommerce 11.1 has added an EU order withdrawal flow, and so there are some standards that the EU has put into place on how orders may be withdrawn from a WooCommerce site and so forth. And so they've built that into core WooCommerce. That's good news. That's helpful. And there's also a refund preview API that helps guide that whole process. So it is in beta. It'll ship in the next couple of weeks. It's slated to land on September the 1st. It is off by default, but you can toggle it on. And so that's really good. If you serve any customers in the EU with your WooCommerce store, this is going to be a welcome addition to WooCommerce. And kudos to the WooCommerce team. They've really been cranking out some excellent updates to core WooCommerce, some of which have been needed for a very long time. We've talked about that in the last, over the last several months of how core WooCommerce is really focusing on some development. They've made some organizational changes to give teams some authority to just run and get things done. And that's good. WooCommerce had kind of been, if we're honest, been a little bit stagnant, a little bit over the last few years. And it is really growing, and there's some good work being done there. So good job. Another thing that you'll notice if you go to woocommerce.com/products is this new verification credentialing is maybe a better way. There's now a thing called Excellence Verified, which, okay, AI is awesome. I love AI. We do a lot of things with AI. AI also creates lots of plugins. We've talked about how so many more plugins are being released in the WordPress plugin directory because of AI. I mean, you just kind of would figure that would happen, right? But there's so many plugins for WooCommerce. How do you know which ones are credible? How, which developers have actually, gone through some process to let you know they're a little more trustworthy than others? Because of all the kinds of WordPress plugins, the ones you really want to be careful of are things that are going to touch WooCommerce, where there's payments and customers and data. Got to be careful about that. And so WooCommerce has created this excellence verified badge that is now right there in their products page. So to earn it, a product has to pass a scan for vulnerabilities and malicious code. There's also a credentialing process for developers. So they're more of a trusted shop kind of thing. So it's really good. Has to be kept up to date to recent releases, has to be rated 3.5 or better by real merchants, and so forth. So this is good. And it's a way to put like an extra, like cream of the crop level plugins that, for WooCommerce. So as you're looking at these things and considering WooCommerce plugins, this is good. I like this. Okay, this is big news. cPanel has added an AI assistant and an MCP server and 3 different site builders built into core cPanel. Now, this is all part of cPanel release 138, which may or may not be available on your box yet. I have the hosting.com team investigating whether or not I can get this or not. I'm really hoping that I can, that it's available and able to install. So you want to talk to your host and just make sure it's past their vetting process and they can support it and all those things. But this upgrade, having an MCP server for cPanel is huge. It's going to unlock a lot for us in our agency. And there's also some AI site builders, like your AI tool can patch into the cPanel site builders and start to build some things. This might unlock a lot, and I can see that potentially there are some excellent live stream topics to come all around this new cPanel AI aware product. Now, it is called Meridian, and that is a replacement for, I'm just going to click and open this. Meridian is this one doesn't have any of the, let's see if we do have no. Let's see if I can find images. That's what I'm looking for, is images and previews, navigating Meridian. Yeah. So it's a very different theme for cPanel. You're probably used to the Jupyter theme. It's been around for a while. This is a whole new theme for cPanel. Let's see if I've got any more screenshots here. No. Well, anyway, you can click around and find those, but it is definitely a more modern design than what we've seen in cPanel recently, and it's going to enable AI agents to interact directly. So this is great, great news. All right, moving right along to this one. Sue sent me this little link here, and it's interesting, especially if you serve any kind of politically oriented group. Google has made some changes where they're going to let verified political committees pass by the Gmail spam filter. Now, that may be great news for you or really bad news for you if you don't want all the political email. So, it's whatever. But Google has basically made a decision. Look, if you're a verified political entity, then you'll be able to kind of get a bypass to the spam filter. So they launched this Gmail verified sender program, or it's coming on September the 8th. And if a political committee, group, individual, whatever gets qualified, then they kind of get a leg up in passing by the Google spam filter. So they get verified through this new thing called Campaign Verify. It's a nonpartisan, nonprofit, and it helps to validate that they're legit. So there you go. And it is, by the way, if your spam complaint gets over .3, then you're still going to get got. But there you go. Okay, moving right along. We'll wrap up with this one. I just saw this today, and I thought it was hilarious. This is what happens when a spammer misunderstands the purpose of your Facebook group. So here, some spammer thought this was an actual brick community, as in people who create and sell bricks. And so there's their WhatsApp. If you want to give them a call, There you go. Also, if you saw this shared, I didn't put these on the screen because I just wasn't going to put these on the screen, but the comments are golden around this. So, go look for this because the comments are hilarious. All right, that brings us to the end of the weekly brief. I do want to point your attention to upcoming.myagencysuccess.com. On which you will find 2 excellent live streams coming up in the month of September. A couple of weeks away, we're going to be talking about going from a page builder to blocks, or like an old website to blocks. If I had to do this again, I'd probably rename this a little bit. Like, you got an old site, maybe it's a Visual Composer WP Bakery site, or it's an ancient site that's like in the classic editor and you've marked it up with widgets or whatever. Let's get those old sites transitioned into WordPress blocks. So we're going to do that with AI and Nova Mira, and it's going to be a ton of fun. That is coming up on September the 8th. That is going to be all live demo. And so, there's 100% likelihood that something's going to break. Something is going to blow up and we'll have to figure it out together. And those are oftentimes the most fun live streams. Also coming up on September 22nd, if you serve clients, you probably, like me, have inherited a site from some other developer that went poof, goodbye, they're gone, or there was some issue between the client and the original developer or whatever. I call those rescue sites. And how do you audit those sites to see what's hiding under the surface? We just went through that with a big client that we just took on. And so I'm looking forward to show you, how do we evaluate a site that we didn't build and make sure that we can actually manage it? And how do you use AI to, make that a little bit easier? Because it is way easier now with a tool like Nova Mira than it was before. So that's coming up September 22nd. You'll leave that one with a process you can start to use right away in evaluating sites. So that's all coming up. Looking forward to all of those things. And now let us turn our attention to the first question on the list, which comes from Ben Bradley. Also, if you have a question you'd like to ask, the link to do so is in the chat. 9 questions in the list right now, starting with Mr. Ben. All right, Ben, here we go. I'm expecting many Is It Agent Ready questions here. Okay, so Ben says, thanks for the Is Your Site Agent Ready webinar. One of the first things it flagged for us was a manual robots.txt file we created a while back. Just allow SEMrush SA through. Turns out that the manual file was overriding WordPress's own automatically generated one. Yes, that is, if you have an actual physical robots.txt file, I think we flagged that, didn't we? Like, it's been a few nights since, I've slept since then. I think I flagged that during the Is It Agent Ready live stream. Because if you have a physical, if you open your file manager in your hosting environment and you see at the root a robots.txt file, that is not a best practice for WordPress, because and the same thing for a sitemap.xml. Those things should be generated dynamically. Your SEO plugin, like for example, if you go into a post, like we've got the Yoast is running on this site just because it's, probably the widest used one. Anyway, so here's this Yoast SEO deal. And when you go down here, and other plugins are going to do similar things, but like here where you say, I do not want search engines to show this content. Great. In the robots.txt, it's going to flag this. Don't go to that URL, right? It also puts the no index tags on the page. So the robots.txt needs to be automatically, dynamically generated by WordPress. It should not be a physical, it's not really a physical file, like an actual named file there in the root. Does that make sense? Okay, so good. Second issue, we use Yoast SEO and its sitemap is served at sitemap_index. Correct. Not sitemap XML, which your scan doesn't recognize. Really? So a couple of things on this. When you go to sitemap.xml, Yoast automatically forwards it. Like there's a built-in redirect from Yoast, and most other SEO plugins that I've tried do the same thing, and it gives you the sitemap index, which Is It Agent Ready ought to recognize. So let's just test that. So we'll run a quick test here, and it does see the sitemap. So that's interesting. Sitemap exists with a valid structure. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. It's looking at WP sitemap. What in the world is that? This is a new finding. Oh, it's the same thing. Okay, so Yoast is forwarding this is the core location for the sitemap, and so it's forwarding that to its own sitemap index as well. Sue says she thinks the WP sitemap might be cadence. It might be. I've never noticed this before. I bet this is core WordPress that's doing this. I mean, we can test it real quick by putting on a default theme. But anyway, so I'm seeing that Is It Agent Ready is catching whatever the sitemap is. Yoast is forwarding it, and it's able to digest it. And then the robots.txt is pointing to it correctly. Yeah. So I'm not sure why so Ben, I would dig into why isn't the issue is not Is It Agent Ready? It may be the issue is your site isn't for some reason forwarding to the correct sitemap. There ought to be a redirect from your SEO plugin to its appropriate sitemap index. Ben, what SEO plugin are you using? Oh, you say Yoast. So Ben, if you go to your domain /sitemap.xml, does it automatically forward to sitemap_index? That'd be the first thing to check. And also, what sitemap is actually listed in your robots.txt? And does this forward to the sitemap index like this? So Ben's saying he put a custom function in place. You shouldn't have had to do that. Because Yoast should be doing that for you. So I would the custom function is a band-aid that might actually blow up other things later. So Ben, if I were you, I would point your Nova Mira at your site and explain these symptoms. This is not redirecting appropriately. Why not? I don't want you to create a function to fix it. We need to figure out why it's not doing that, because that is the default behavior of Yoast. Yeah, I would not try to fix this with a function because something is interfering already with the default behavior. And it may be, Yoast is one of those plugins that we just have set in our base site, and we don't generally deal with all of the functions. But I wonder if there is a sitemap toggle switch. Yeah, see if this is toggled on. See if this is toggled on here, Ben. This is just under Yoast and settings. And it may be that that's not toggled on, and so there's some weirdness going on there. But default Yoast behavior should be to forward it. Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one, Ben. So dig into that a little more and let us know what you find, because that is curious. This is the default version. Yeah, this is the free version of Yoast I'm looking at. All right, great question. Oh, and in the meantime, y'all, I saw this plugin just this morning. It is called Min admin. It is on the GitHubs. Now, this is from Austin Ginder, very well-known WordPress developer, safe. It is not a WordPress.org plugin. It is a GitHub plugin. Watch. This plugin is the admin interface that I've been waiting on for WordPress. Look how beautiful this is. It's not a reskinning of WordPress admin. It is a rewrite. So for example, look here, content. That covers posts, pages, posts in a custom post type, elements, and block patterns. This just makes sense. And if I want to add new, look at that, new post. Okay, I like this. Look how pretty that is. Here's WooCommerce. Tools. Look, here's email. So it taps into Fluent SMTP. Here's our activity log, which pulls in solid security. All the things here. Extensions, which is plugins, but it includes all of these things as well. Look at this. It even shows, look at that, licenses for premium plugins. I'll drop the link here in the chat. It is a GitHub repo called Min Admin. Isn't this pretty? It's just a completely different take, and it's fast. Very, very fast. So, anyway, my profile, it's just gorgeous. This is what the WordPress admin should be. So here's the settings page. Look at that. Visibility. What's my home page? Design. Content. Pretty cool. Anyway, that part was free. It gives you the link here and also here to jump into that view. So pretty nice. Okay. Moving right along to someone's actual question. Next in the list is also Ben. I mean, that was worth a 2-minute detour, right? Pretty neat. Okay, yeah, Sue, it is a GitHub plugin. How do you know if you get... that's the downside of the GitHub plugin. You just have to watch it. It does not have an auto updater. I don't think... Let me just check. I don't think it's in the WordPress plugin directory. The link I saw was on GitHub. Nope, it's not in there. Maybe they'll put it in there at some point. Who knows? Okay. Another question from Ben. All right, not really a question, more of a heads up for anyone else on SiteGround hosting who's finding their is your site agent ready scan won't pass on robots.txt or sitemap, even though everything looks configured correctly. In our case, the site was fine. It was SiteGround's own firewall. Doggone it, those guys. Okay, so there's some information here. I will leave this momentarily if you want to screenshot it if you are on this other host. Okay, now, next up is Sue. Sue says, about Messio, and Sue, by the way, is referencing one of the plugins that we talked about on Is It Agent Ready called Messio for Agents. This one right here. It installed easily. I didn't get the WP version issue, some noted Tuesday. I did a few clicks on one site. However, when I go to posts, there are new meta boxes. I don't remember. So I didn't cover those because you really don't need to mess with them. But you are correct, Sue, in that when you activate Messio for Agents and you go look at any post page, whatever, there are now new things. Let's see here. So there's a short description and a full markdown content override. So the thing is, you don't have to do anything about this. It's going to do it automatically for you. This is here for if for some reason you want to feed a markdown version of the text that's different from what would appear on the front end of the site. You don't have to touch any of this stuff. It just gives you some extra granular control if you want it. So no need to do anything about it. Leave it blank. You're done. Activate it and you're done. Good question. All righty. Next up is Jamie. Hey, Jamie. All right. This may be similar to Ben's first question. Another sitemap issue. So liking isn't agent ready. When you test the live sites, it kicks back there is no sitemap XML file. However, all my sites have Yoast automatically. Yep. And it has all this. Yes. So Yoast instructs me that sitemap XML is the only one that needs to be submitted. Correct. So I don't know why that's happening, but clearly it is an issue if you all are seeing this. I've not seen this on any site that we manage at all. So I don't know what's the deal there. And Jamie says it's only on a few sites despite the config. That's a great question. So I don't know what to tell you about that. And they're on the same server, Jamie? Weird. Wow. Okay. So the deal is, look, it's an external scanner scanning things, and maybe it's just missing it for some reason. I have no idea why either, and I'm assuming you've tried multiple times, right? Hey, you want to drop a domain in the chat, Jamie? Let's scan it from here and see if I see the same thing. If you're open to that. Gene is saying the same thing. That is weird, y'all. If anybody wants to drop a domain, oh no, I'm not we won't pull up the site. We're just going to scan it here. Don't worry. Okay. And also, by the way, how many of you have a site right now that you would cringe and crawl under your desk if we were to show it on the screen for everybody else? I do. Okay, so it's all good. We're among friends here, right? We all get it. We totally get it. Okay. just saying. All right. Sitemap. Look at that. Okay. So let's just test this hypothesis. It's there. I don't know. So clearly this is an issue with the is it agent ready scanner. And I don't know what to tell you. That is awfully weird. Yeah, it's a false negative. Okay, I don't have an answer for that. Complain to Cloudflare. Karen says SEO Press uses sitemaps.xml. I mean, who knows why they do the things they do, right? I mean, Karen, I don't use SEO Press, but out of curiosity, do they have just all the URLs on one page, or do they have it indexed like Yoast does per content type? Like this. So there's a post sitemap page. Da, 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 da. So technically, a sitemap would be all one, like just one. It wouldn't be an index to things. Okay, Melanie's is SEO Press, so let's take a look at that. No, it's an index. Who knows why? And it really, honestly, doesn't matter. Google doesn't care what the URL is. They just want a sitemap. So weird. So I don't know. I guess the answer is because they want to. I, I don't know. Okay. Next up is Gene. Hey, Gene. Pausing for a minute. Those developers had a good reason for doing it. And like all developer-y developers, they're going to think their way is the best, and you'll never argue them out of it. So it is what it is. All right. Now for Gene, another, is it agent ready? I have enabled the plugin on about 6 sites. And Gene, I'm guessing you mean the Messio for Agents plugin? Um, Note that I do not have Cloudflare on any of them. Will this affect the results? No. No. Although we've just seen that results may vary. So I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't, right? Shouldn't matter. Should pass right through the DNS. That's fine. The results are not great and varied site to site. Several sites have link headers missing. Several sites even have robots.txt. And see, okay, so there is some common thread around this. Robots.txt and sitemap not being read. So Gene, with the robots, well, even if it's there, that's weird. Something is preventing that scan from happening. And so, you know what it might be is your host may be preventing scanning of those files by a bot. However, like you want a bot to read robots.txt and sitemap.xml. I don't know. My as I'm processing this more and more, my thought is there must be something at the network level or at your host's security settings level that is preventing this from being read. For example, like Ben noted that the other host's firewall was blocking the scan and he had to unblock it. My guess is best, because I can't reproduce this, and so I've not had to figure it out. My guess is all of these things are going to be similar to that. It's got to be a security block either at network DNS level or at your host that is preventing those things from being scanned because they do exist. So that's the direction I would go with this, Gene. It's going to be the same for you. This link headers, something is preventing the scanner from scanning that. And it's either going to be at your DNS security level, WAF rule level, or at the host level. I would yes, Gene. So I would reach out to your host. Or this might be a really good, as Ben mentioned earlier, what a great use for the AI, for the agency success Slack group. Y'all chat about it. That's what it's there for, to help connect you all. So start a group message and talk each other through it and share what you found, because that is a weird one. And I don't know why you're experiencing that issue. I really do not. I wanted to update the DNS records on a website that is hosted at Nexus. I've always updated the DNS records on their site where my websites are hosted. I did not see the option for SVCB records, so I reached out to technical support. They told me that my domain is currently using Cloudflare for DNS management, so the DNS records are managed through Cloudflare. Yes. Yes, correct. The issue is I do not have a Cloudflare account. Oh, Elizabeth, will you share the domain in question and we will take a quick look at DNS and see? Would you mind sharing that domain in the chat? Okay, copy. Did that copy for me? There we go. And I'm just going to do this. I'm sure some of you know this already, but at least if you're using a Mac, you can do a whois just right there in the terminal, and it's way quicker. So correct, this is running through Cloudflare. Your name servers are at Cloudflare. So they are, in fact, correct. There is a Cloudflare account that is controlling the DNS for that domain name. Yep. So somewhere, someplace, you do have a Cloudflare account. Tanya says some hosts are running Cloudflare. Yeah, like rocket.net is powered by Cloudflare, but it doesn't It doesn't require the name servers to be set to Cloudflare. Could be that other hosts own CDN. So either way, I would, let's think about this for a minute. When you set up your hosting with that other host, do you remember them giving you these name servers to set up? Mm. So, interesting. Yeah, Sue's asking some good questions. Is this your domain, Sue, or a client? Oh, you're saying that this used to be Nexus name servers? Well, there's when it happened. And this, by the way, is dnshistory.org. It happened on October the 23rd of last year. Those name servers were changed, Elizabeth. I don't know what they were before. Here's what they were before. So, yep, on October the 8th of last year, they were changed from hosting name servers over to Cloudflare name servers. Somebody did that. Is this your domain, Elizabeth, or is it a client domain? Yeah. So the client or their designee changed these name servers. So that's your issue. And this is a great tool, by the way. I'm saying Melanie's talking about it already in the chat. DNShistory.org. It's a fantastic tool, and you can dig into, the homepage for a domain shows you what they are and when they were changed. Like it shows you all the values and when they were last changed. Then you can click into it and see the full history. I mean, look at this, goes back to 2010, all the various changes that have happened in that time. So this was a DNS change. It had to have been at the registrar at Enum to make the name server change. So that's something to dig into. You're saying the client has no access to change. Is it your Enum account, Elizabeth? It's your account. You're saying you didn't change it at the name server or you didn't change the name servers at the registrar. I would have a conversation with Enum because somebody did. Yeah. And it's not like Enum started using Cloudflare DNS and changed it themselves because it was pointed at a host's DNS. Elizabeth is saying, I think someone in security for them added email. There's your answer. They also went in and put it under Cloudflare. Yeah, that's your issue. All right, next up is Shauna. Hey, Shauna. Shauna says, I have a couple of sites that do have robots.txt, sitemap index HTML, and LLMs.txt available direct browse. But is it agent ready does not see them? Another one. Holy cow. I've added Messio for agents. Also, with one site, the LLMS full causes a critical error. Interesting. So, Shauna, um, are these actual files you can see, or are they dynamically generated? So the fact that you can browse to them doesn't help us, because whether they're dynamically generated or if they're actual files in the file list, you'd still be able to browse to them. So the way to check is like to go into a file manager for the hosting environment and see if you actually see them in the list, or if they're being dynamically generated. Oh, you see, okay, you say you see the listing. So you're in like a file manager window or like an SFTP app or something, and you actually see those files physically there. Not physically, but like listed there. Okay, not in the browser. So the browser, they're going to show up in the browser whether they're actually there as a file or if they are dynamically generated. So the first step would be to check your file manager and see if these files are actually there. I see this happen on older sites oftentimes, where maybe there were some SEO tools used at some point, and that SEO tool created an actual file in the file tree for it rather than being dynamic. And you don't want that. You do not want these files in virtually every case in our world. Like for what we do, you do not want those files to be actually there listed in the file tree. You want them to be dynamic, dynamically generated by a plugin or code or whatever. Like Yoast dynamically generates that sitemap. You can't go to a file in the file manager that says sitemap. It doesn't exist, and it should not exist. You want these to be dynamic, not actual files. Does that make sense? You do not want them to be physical. So that's the first thing I would check, because if there is an actual file listed there in the file manager, that's going to override a dynamic version of that file. And so it'll be some old and, whatever. You don't want that. You want the dynamically generated files by these plugins. So that's the first step, is to make sure those physical files aren't there. If they are there, just delete them or download them or whatever, or just rename like robots.txt.old or something. Just rename them like that, just so that they're not read anymore. Yeah. So, however, my guess is you're running up against the same thing that some of these other folks are, where something at the host or security level somewhere is preventing a scan of these files. And that's a good question. Clearly, I mean, this is happening to a lot of you. I've not experienced it, so I haven't had to diagnose it yet. But it's got to be something in one of those layers that's preventing the scanner from being able to scan. So, Shauna, does that help at all? You can, like, the one thing you can do right away is just make sure those files don't exist in the file list. All right. So please, I hope that next office hours, some of you folks will have gotten into this and you'll be able to report back, oh, here's what we did to fix it. And I bet you it's going to help a bunch of other people. So please do that. And hopefully we can get this one solved. That is weird. All righty. Moving on to Ben. Hey, Ben. Last AI agent ready question. I've installed the SEO for Agents plugin, and yes, I still haven't seen any changes in the scoring. It appears even though I've set it up here, it doesn't appear to be working. Claude says it's something to do with the trailing // It can't be that. I'm working with it. So it's got to be more the scanner. Like something's preventing this scan from happening correctly, Ben. Now, what I'll tell you is, if you activate that plugin, just like I showed you in the live stream, you are satisfying the requirements of the agents. Now, I would be curious to see if whatever these things are, whatever it turns out to be that's blocking the scan, is it also blocking legitimate AI agents from finding your site correctly? That would be my bigger concern. And I have no idea, because we don't know what's actually causing these. So, I would definitely get to the bottom of it. But you can pretty well be certain that if you have the plugins active, it's satisfying all the requirements for Cloudflare's tool to say it's agent ready. That's their own score now, of course, right? So we're doing all we can at this point. But what you want to make sure is that whatever's blocking it is not also potentially blocking AI agents. Okay, great question. Next up is Jean, who I think just said that was her question too. All right, Jean says, a client has built a 6-page site in Claude and wants to rebuild it in WordPress. They also built a version in React. It is 1 page. Perfect. This is my push to use Novamira, right? Yes, it is. One complication. Oh, it's multilingual. Dear me. Dearie me. It can't just be easy, can it? Okay. Do I need the React files from the client or the Claude export? When you link Novamira Pro to, okay, let me just stop right here. Okay, so Gene, the first time you use and what's your, let me even start here. This is exactly what we're going to be doing in this live stream coming up on September the 8th. The same principles will be in play of taking a source and rebuilding it in blocks. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. So if you can hang on for a couple of weeks, we'll do it live. Now, in order to preserve your mental health, I would tell you, do not try to do multilingual as your first attempt at this, right? Multilingual is a whole other level of hassle. So what I would try to do first is build it out and then install your multilingual plugin, which will hopefully do your right to left issues. And then Novamira should be able to connect into that and push in the correct text from the mockups. So if I were you, you want the mockups. I would not try to work with React files, although it probably could. I would work with the flat HTML files that Claude likely produced for them the first time. And you want everything. You want all the assets. It should be like, they should be able to send you a folder full of exactly what they would upload to the web to get that HTML site to work. So it should have folders full of assets and images and CSS and JavaScript, etc. Get that whole folder and Claude can loop through that and build the blocks. I'll be giving you some principles on, things that are going to save you time and best practices in that live stream coming up in a couple weeks. But you say you need it now, go for it. Just don't try to do multilingual in that first phase. You will never want to do this again if you try that. I would get it built first just to show yourself that it's possible, then bring in multilingual. The other thing I will tell you, if you're going to jump into this, Gene, is that you're going to want to build this with Opus, which if you're at the $30 a month Claude level, it's going to chew through your tokens like crazy. So consider either A, being aware that I'm going to have to wait and delay, like I could build a couple page or two, and then I got to wait for my next 4-hour window or whatever. Just be aware that's going to happen, or bump up to the $100 a month level to get this built. So that, just be aware. Don't try to build this like on Sonnet. It's not gonna, you're gonna have problems if you do that. Okay. So Sue's suggesting ask Claude if it understands how to do right to left. You can't, you need to have a WordPress multilingual plugin installed and let it do that. If you're going to build this in WordPress, you need to have something like Translate Press or WPML in there and working, and let Novamira build into that, because otherwise you're going to have, it's going to be trouble to keep that content updated later. Like, the whole point of building into WordPress is to put this in a content management system that a human could go into and make tweaks and changes, right? Otherwise, just push the HTML site. Getting it into WordPress means you want a human involved. And if you want a human involved, then you need a WordPress multilingual plugin of some sort. Yeah. So, WPML, Translate Press, probably the best two. There are others. Yeah. I'm not sure what Novamira does. If it has a, it translates with Weglot. Does it have any other? They don't mention WPML. They don't mention Translate Press. That's not good. So they haven't gotten really into that area at all other than Weglot. And if you want to build with Weglot, or if you want to build with Nova Mira, you should probably look at Weglot as your plugin. So, because they already have a specialization for it. Otherwise, what you're going to end up doing, and we've done this before, and we're running out of time here, but I would say this. We have kind of built our own specialization by pointing Claude at a folder on the desktop that is the unzipped plugin and have it digest all the hooks and functions and everything in that plugin, and with the idea of we want to let Nova Mira see what's going on here. And we've built at our own expert, or our, what do they call it, specializations. And it's done okay. Just be aware of that. Multilingual Gene is, it's probably the worst way you could build your first site with Nova Mira and WordPress. It's complicated. Whether you do it manually, it's more complicated if you're trying to do it with AI. So, yeah. Okay. Got to wrap things up here as time is running out. Tanya is our final. Oh, did I miss some questions? Oh, yes. Sorry about that. When you link to Novamira Pro on a site, do you use OAuth or application password? So we have built a switchboard for Novamira that runs all of our projects. And so we use application passwords. My recommendation for you in this instance would be to use OAuth. Unless you have some way of doing secure credential management, which is something that we spent a lot of time in my agency developing, just use OAuth. It'll be simpler. When you copy the code into Claude, do you add it to the main window or inside the connectors area? Okay, with OAuth, you just connect. With, you know, it's going to open a window and you validate and you're done. So just do it that way. Should I bother with the design tab in Nova Mira to get the styling in place? Yes. So what you should do is have Claude digest, like have Claude talk to Nova Mira, make sure they're getting along well and communicating, and then point it at that folder full of assets that they've given you and tell it to build a design system out of that. And it will. Finally, Tanya, would you happen to know under which rock this other hosting company has hidden the downloads for all of our LTD products? No. And steam is now coming from my little bald head. It is ridiculous. It is just absolutely ridiculous. And that ends office hours for today. Oh my, I have many thoughts and opinions, which I will keep to myself at this point. This has been fun, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with me for the last hour. We're back next Thursday for office hours. And then the following week, we'll have some fun live streams all around building out a site with blocks and Nova Mira. All righty. Have a great weekend. I hope you have a lot of fun. You get to do some stuff you want to do and you don't have to do any work at all. And I'll see you back here next Thursday for office hours here on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.